The stars above stretched endlessly, a tapestry of light unbroken by time or distance. Among them, a single human vessel glided silently, a slender silver streak against the cosmic void. It carried not only crew and cargo, but the accumulated ingenuity of a species that had learned to thrive where others feared to tread. The vessel's sensors flickered with faint anomalies, distortions in space that suggested something had been watching. Something intelligent. Something patient. Something that had followed humanity across the darkness, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The warning came not as alarm, but as a subtle shift in the stars themselves. Navigation arrays registered a presence. A vessel unlike any known to human catalogs. It moved with predatory grace, weaving between gravitational fields with precision that betrayed both calculation and instinct. Its silhouette was alien, sleek, yet monstrous in its design, as if predation had been distilled into metal and shadow. Humanity had encountered alien forces before, but never one that hunted rather than invaded, one that pursued for sport rather than conquest. Inside the human ship, the crew moved with quiet efficiency. Each member knew instinctively that they were being studied, that their every maneuver was anticipated. And yet, fear was tempered with focus. Humanity had always excelled where survival demanded creativity. Where adaptation was the only path forward. The vessel itself seemed alive, its hull whispering with energy channels that hummed beneath the skin like a heartbeat. The humans aboard were no strangers to danger, they had survived storms, void collapses, and skirmishes with otherworldly raiders. This, however, was something different. This was the apex predator of the void, and it had marked them as prey. The first engagement was a test. Shadows flickered across the human ship's long-range sensors, bursts of energy that seemed almost playful, probing defenses with curiosity and menace. Missiles were fired, not in blind rage, but in precise, calculated patterns meant to provoke. Humanity responded not with panic, but with strategy. Countermeasures deployed in intricate sequences, energy fields flaring like temporary auroras around the hull. The predator adjusted immediately, its movements impossibly smooth, anticipating each evasion, each counterstrike, yet the humans did not falter. In the quiet moments between pulses of combat, the crew reflected on the paradox of their situation. They were alone in the abyss, hunted by a being, or beings, that viewed life as prey. And yet, they were not helpless. Humanity's advantage lay not in sheer strength, but in ingenuity, in imagination, in the willingness to act unpredictably. Every maneuver, every decision was a ripple of defiance, a statement that even the most calculated predator could not account for the boundless creativity of a human mind. The predator grew frustrated. It could sense the anomaly, the deviation from patterns it had learned to expect from lesser species. Human reflexes were erratic, yet deliberate. Their actions combined logic and instinct in a form the hunter could not model. It was a challenge unlike any other. Across the void, its sensors scanned relentlessly, searching for a weakness in a species that had none in the conventional sense. Each time it calculated a successful strike, humanity had already adjusted, anticipating the anticipation. The dance had begun, and the hunter found itself ensnared in rhythms it had never known. The vessel dove into a dense asteroid field, using gravitational anomalies to mask its energy signature. The predator followed, its sleek frame darting between tumbling rocks, weapons pulsing in anticipation. Collisions were avoided not by chance, but by foresight. Humans used every natural and artificial irregularity in space as an advantage, a labyrinth woven with intelligence and courage. The predator, though powerful and precise, began to expend resources, overcompensating for maneuvers it had misjudged. Its confidence faltered. Its pursuit became reactionary, and humanity learned something vital in those moments. The hunter's strength was also its limitation. It relied on patterns, predictions, control. Humanity thrived in unpredictability, in improvisation, in moral and tactical complexity. Every evasive loop, every decoy launched, every calculated silence communicated a single truth across the void: they would not be prey. They would not yield. The hunter, vast and ancient, was encountering something it had never accounted for, a species that could think, feel, and adapt beyond the confines of instinct or programming. As the asteroid field gave way to open space, both vessels emerged, the Predator circling cautiously, its sensors wide. Humanity's ship held steady, engines glowing with quiet power. The hunter had expected easy prey, but the humans had transformed the pursuit into a proving ground. A lesson in respect, in defiance, in the unpredictable resilience of a species that refused to be catalogued. Conquered, or consumed. The stars themselves seemed to lean closer, silent witnesses to a confrontation that was no longer mere survival, it was a reckoning, and above it all, in the vast, echoing emptiness of the cosmos, humanity realized that they were not simply fleeing. They were preparing. Waiting for the perfect moment to turn the hunter into the hunted, the Predator circled with silent menace, its sleek hull reflecting distant starlight in jagged, metallic shards. Every sensor sweep, every wave of energy, was precise, calculated to anticipate human reaction. Yet the humans aboard their vessel had long embraced the art of unpredictability. Where the hunter saw patterns, the crew inserted chaos. Where it expected compliance, they offered ingenuity. Every maneuver was a question posed across the void: can you truly anticipate us? For hours, the hunt continued. Missiles streaked silently, cloaked in the vacuum of space, yet they were intercepted by intricate countermeasures woven like a web around the human ship. Energy pulses flared, then vanished, leaving trails of refracted light that glittered against the cosmic backdrop. The Predator adjusted continuously, sensing the anomaly of human thought, the imperceptible improvisations that made the crew impossible to predict. It was a game of intellect as much as speed, and humanity had never been better at games of survival. The crew accessed the vessel's most secret systems, ones built not for direct combat but for improvisational dominance. Nanite swarms released from the hull coalesced into shifting shields, kinetic decoys, and mirroring holograms. The Predator's sensors were overwhelmed with possibilities, its calculation cycles overextended by the sheer variety of human ingenuity. It had expected resistance, but it had not anticipated creativity. Every move the humans made was simultaneously reactive and proactive, a paradox that destabilized even the Predator's advanced neural algorithms. In moments of relative calm, the crew observed the hunter through long-range scanners. Its design was alien. Yet eerily familiar, nature refined into technology, predation distilled into perfection. They studied it not just to survive, but to understand. The Predator hunted with intelligence, yes, but it lacked one thing: moral depth. It acted only on instinct, program, or desire to dominate. Humanity had learned to balance intellect with conscience, calculation with empathy. That difference would become their greatest weapon. The vessel slipped through a fractured nebula, its path concealed in clouds of ionized gas. The Predator followed, hesitant now, sensing the human ship's intent to manipulate the environment itself. Gravity wells were exploited, plasma storms leveraged, even the faint magnetic fields of nearby asteroids were used to distort tracking sensors. Each move subtly drained the Predator's advantage, forcing it into overcompensation. Humanity's vessel was no longer fleeing, it was teaching. Every maneuver a lesson in unpredictability, every evasive loop a demonstration of mental flexibility, every silent drift a challenge: you hunt. We adapt. Then, without warning, the Predator accelerated, closing in with lethal precision. Its energy array flared, lighting up the surrounding void like a miniature supernova. It struck as it always had, with speed, force, and calculation. The humans anticipated it. The vessel twisted in impossible arcs, releasing mirrored holographic images that scattered the attack, converting raw energy into harmless streams of light that danced across the nebula. The Predator recoiled, momentarily disoriented, its confidence fractured by a species that refused to behave predictably, and in that moment, humanity realized the hunter's true vulnerability. It could calculate, but it could not imagine. It could pursue, but it could not understand the will behind every decision, the moral calculus, the depth of creativity that guided every evasive move. The predator was powerful, precise, relentless, but it was limited. Humanity was limitless. As silence returned to the void, the crew gathered at observation panels, gazing into the darkness where the predator lingered. They had survived the first engagement. They had learned its patterns, its limits, its obsessions. And somewhere deep in the hull, systems hummed in quiet resonance, readying the next phase. Humanity was no longer running. They were preparing. And soon, the hunter would discover what it truly meant to be pursued. The predator hesitated, its alien sensors scanning the vessel with an intensity born of frustration. It had expected an easy pursuit, a brief demonstration of superiority, yet every maneuver by the humans defied logic, shattered expectation, and undermined its calculations. Time and again, the hunter unleashed bursts of energy, deploying microdrones, cloaked decoys, and gravity distortions, but the human crew had anticipated, adapted, and countered with astonishing precision. Each action was a statement. Survival was not enough. Humanity would not be dominated. In the quiet moments between attacks, the vessel glided through a dense asteroid belt, weaving between massive rocks that spun lazily through space. The predator followed, forced to navigate the treacherous terrain with care. Every asteroid became a tool. One diverted energy pulses, another masked heat signatures, and clusters were used to scatter decoy drones into complex patterns. The humans did not simply evade, they orchestrated the environment into a labyrinth of strategy, turning space itself into a weapon against their pursuer. The predator, magnificent and ruthless, was slowed by a species that saw obstacles not as threats, but as opportunities. The crew had prepared for this. Centuries of human ingenuity, of engineering, of instinctual problem-solving, flowed through the vessel's systems. Quantum decoys shimmered along invisible planes, misdirecting the predator's weapons by milliseconds that proved fatal in space combat. Adaptive shields reformed continuously, mirroring the hunter's tactics before it could fully adjust. Every human decision was amplified by technology, and every technological response was informed by human intuition. The predator, for the first time in its existence, was encountering not raw reaction, but creativity interwoven with moral purpose, even as the hunter unleashed its deadliest arsenal, concussive graviton lances, plasma spears, and spatial disruptors. The humans maintained composure. Each attack was anticipated, each trajectory recalculated, each energy output redirected to harmless dispersal. The predator's calculations grew erratic, its once perfect timing faltering. It tried to anticipate improvisation, but improvisation is not a pattern to be decoded, it is a living, evolving expression of mind and will. And humanity had mastered it. As they emerged from the asteroid belt into open space, the hunter paused, scanning the vessel from multiple angles. Its observation revealed something unexpected. The humans were not fleeing, they were studying. Every evasive maneuver, every countermeasure was data, insight, a challenge issued back across the void. The predator had believed itself to be the apex intelligence in this sector, but here was a species that could learn faster, adapt quicker, and anticipate deeper than its own design allowed. In a daring move, the human vessel executed a rapid spin, releasing a swarm of reflective drones into a clouded nebula. The hunter fired blindly, striking only illusions, wasting energy, miscalculating trajectory after trajectory. The humans moved silently through the chaos, their ship threading through hazards with the elegance of a predator of their own. They had turned the hunter's strength against itself. Speed, calculation, and precision now became liabilities in the hands of a species that embraced unpredictability. And in that quiet space, the humans realized the first truth of the hunt: to be unpredictable was to be untouchable. The predator had the advantage of raw power and perfect sensors, but it lacked imagination. Humanity possessed something infinitely more dangerous: creativity fused with courage, intelligence intertwined with moral depth. Every human on that vessel contributed to a strategy no algorithm could foresee, no weapon could counter. The hunter lingered at the edge of detection, watching, calculating, yet unable to close the gap. It had underestimated its prey, and that miscalculation would grow with every passing moment. Humanity had turned the chase into a crucible, refining tactics, testing responses, and observing weaknesses. In the dark expanse of the cosmos, the balance had shifted, and humanity prepared to strike. Not in desperation, not in fear, but with the certainty of a species that had learned how to turn the hunter into the hunted, the predator's patience began to fray. It had never encountered prey that anticipated anticipation, that moved not merely to survive but to teach a lesson through survival itself. Its sensors, calibrated to detect patterns, struggled against the unpredictability of human decision-making. Every evasive maneuver, every countermeasure, every subtle manipulation of space and energy introduced chaos it could not compute. The hunter had the power of relentless force. But it lacked one critical element, the ability to imagine beyond instinct. The human vessel darted toward a dense nebula, clouds of ionized gas twisting and glowing with faint electric arcs. Within the haze, visibility and sensor reliability dropped to near zero. The predator followed, undeterred, yet even its calculated movements became slower, more cautious, as it struggled to predict trajectories in the shifting currents. Humans, however, moved with confidence, using the nebula as a living maze. Their vessel bent through gravitational eddies, skimming close to ionized pockets that reflected light in dazzling patterns, making every pursuit attempt a gamble for the hunter, inside the ship. The crew worked as one. Pilots, engineers, and navigators synchronized with the vessel's systems, their instincts aligned with technology that amplified their intuition. Holographic projections of the predator's possible paths flickered before them, but instead of choosing the most obvious route, they selected the path least expected. Drones deployed in irregular bursts, energy shields pulsed in asymmetric rhythms, and gravity-assisted loops launched the vessel along unpredictable arcs. The predator followed, yet every movement it calculated was already obsolete. A sudden flare of energy erupted from the hunter, a concentrated strike aimed to disable the vessel's propulsion. In a single fluid motion, the humans dispersed reflective decoys that split the strike into multiple beams, each harmlessly redirected into the nebula. The hunter adjusted, unleashing a torrent of micromissiles, but the humans had prepared for this too. The vessel executed a sudden, high-velocity corkscrew, weaving through debris and reflections so that the missiles collided with each other, detonating in brilliant arcs of light that illuminated the nebula in a brief, cinematic display. For the first time, the predator hesitated. Its sensors flooded with conflicting data, its algorithms strained to reconcile the anomalies it was witnessing. Humanity was not merely avoiding destruction, they were commanding it. Reshaping the battlefield with ingenuity and foresight. The hunter had never faced a species that turned evasion into offense, that converted unpredictability into power. It sensed its advantage slipping, yet could not comprehend the depth of strategy being deployed against it. The human crew paused briefly in the calm between attacks, observing the hunter's form through sensor arrays. Its design was a marvel of alien engineering, every surface and joint optimized for speed, stealth, and lethal efficiency. Yet, despite its perfection, it lacked moral consciousness, adaptability in the face of unanticipated choices, and the relentless creativity that drove humanity. They had learned the truth of this hunt: survival alone was not enough to win. To endure against a predator, they had to be smarter, faster, and morally aware in ways that defied instinct alone. Seizing the moment, the vessel deployed a new formation of drones, this time creating a lattice of shifting light and energy that warped the predator's sensors. Each drone pulsed intermittently, generating interference patterns that rendered targeting nearly impossible. The hunter's attacks became disjointed, its timing faltering as it tried to recalculate trajectories that no longer existed. The humans used every second to gain spatial advantage, drawing closer to a calculated strike that would finally turn the predator's pursuit into its own vulnerability. And then, with a silent understanding, humanity acted. The vessel dove into a tight gravity well generated by a nearby asteroid cluster, using the predator's own momentum against it. The hunter, confident in its raw power, followed directly, only to find itself ensnared in a trap of calculated forces and mirror decoys. Every energy strike it launched was absorbed or redirected, every evasive maneuver misled, every sensor pulse overloaded. For the first time, the hunter experienced hesitation. It realized, in the cold expanse of space, that it was no longer the master of the hunt. Humanity's vessel emerged from the nebula, engines glowing faintly with residual energy, position perfect. The hunter had been drawn into a dance it could not control. Its own strength and precision weaponized against it. Humanity had learned the hunter's rhythms, understood its limitations, and exploited them without mercy. The pursuit had shifted. The predator was now vulnerable, and the humans, calm and resolute, were ready to close the circle. The predator reeled from its miscalculations, its movements now measured, cautious, almost tentative. For the first time, it felt the weight of unpredictability pressing against its relentless precision. Humanity's vessel had transformed the pursuit into a labyrinth, each evasive maneuver a calculated assertion of dominance over the hunter's expectations. Every pulse of energy, every reflective decoy, every sudden arc through gravitational eddies spoke a language the predator could not parse, intelligence fused with will, creativity intertwined with courage, a species refusing to be catalogued or conquered. The humans advanced into a sector of space littered with the skeletal remains of ancient, forgotten battles. Massive derelict warships floated like tombstones in the void, their twisted hulls offering both cover and opportunity. The crew exploited every structure, weaving through corridors of debris, using broken hulls to mask energy signatures, redirect attacks, and manipulate the predator's sensors. Each maneuver was executed with meticulous care, yet carried the improvisational flourish that made prediction impossible. The predator followed, yet the environment had become a weapon in human hands, one that turned the hunter's advantages against itself. Inside the vessel, the crew synchronized with systems that amplified intuition and ingenuity. Holographic projections of the predator's most likely paths flickered in real time, but rather than choosing the obvious escape or attack, the humans selected improbable trajectories. Swarms of adaptive drones emitted pulses of energy that interfered with tracking systems, scattering false signatures across the void. Shields expanded and contracted in irregular rhythms, absorbing attacks while presenting unpredictable surfaces for reflection. Humanity had mastered not only survival, but the art of manipulating perception itself. The predator, though ancient and formidable, struggled to recalibrate. Its sensors caught glimpses of human strategy in action, yet no algorithm could fully predict the next choice, the next subtle adjustment, the next blend of improvisation and calculated risk. It struck again, unleashing volleys of graviton lances and plasma disruptors, yet each attack was met with elegant countermeasures that redirected, diffused, or neutralized its force. The predator's confidence faltered, replaced by an awareness that its prey was no longer just surviving. They were orchestrating the battle, turning the hunt into a trial it could not win. The human vessel slipped through a dense magnetic storm, the kind that twisted sensors and distorted communications. The predator followed, but here, its strength became a liability. Magnetic currents interfered with energy projection, and its calculations lagged behind reality. Humanity exploited the turbulence, maneuvering in ways the hunter could not anticipate. The storm became a stage for ingenuity, a proving ground for improvisation. Every move, every counter, every silent adjustment demonstrated a principle the predator could not fathom. Creativity, intelligence, and moral awareness were weapons far deadlier than raw power, and then, the humans acted decisively. Using the interplay of debris, magnetic fields, and adaptive drones, they executed a sudden, high-velocity maneuver that reversed the roles of hunter and hunted. The predator, caught in the vector of its own momentum, struggled to correct. Every attempt to regain control only tightened the human's advantage. The chase, which had begun as a test of endurance and skill, had become a lesson in mastery. Humanity had turned the predator's precision against itself, exploiting the very instincts it relied upon to dominate. From the observation deck, the crew watched as the predator faltered, its movements hesitant, calculated strikes misaligned, systems straining against unpredictable chaos. It had been challenged, outmaneuvered, and outthought, not by brute force, but by ingenuity, creativity, and the boundless courage of a species unwilling to be cornered. Humanity had demonstrated a truth the hunter could not compute, that the mind, guided by will and conscience, could surpass even the most relentless predator. As silence returned to the void, the human vessel emerged unscathed, its engines glowing faintly with residual energy, poised for the final confrontation. The predator lingered, recalculating, learning, but the lesson had already been written. The hunter had been transformed into the hunted, and humanity, calm and resolute, was ready to strike with the full force of intelligence and determination. The predator drifted at the edge of perception, its systems overtaxed, its calculations faltering. Humanity's vessel moved with deliberate calm, engines pulsing softly, energy fields shimmering like a heartbeat across the hull. It was no longer fleeing, no longer reacting, it was orchestrating. Every movement, every deployment of drones, every subtle use of gravitational anomalies was part of a larger design, a plan woven from centuries of human ingenuity and the instinctual wisdom of survival. The hunter had pursued for sport, but the humans pursued purpose. The vessel led the predator toward a nebula cluster, dense with ionized gas and magnetic turbulence. Light bent and refracted unpredictably, shadows danced across the hunter's sensors. And the very fabric of space seemed to conspire with the humans. They used every element of the environment as a weapon, every anomaly as an advantage. The predator, powerful and precise, now stumbled through an arena it could not dominate. It unleashed volleys of plasma lances, attempting to anticipate the vessel's path, but the humans anticipated its anticipation, moving in patterns that defied algorithm and expectation alike. Inside the ship, the crew worked in perfect harmony, their thoughts synchronized with the vessel's advanced systems. Holographic projections displayed every possible outcome, yet the humans did not select the easiest or most obvious, they selected the improbable. The unseen, the moves that would confound a being built to master predictability. Nanite swarms formed shifting shields and mirrors, energy pulses morphed into decoys, and propulsion vectors bent around unseen currents. Each adjustment was precise yet fluid, a demonstration of intelligence married to instinct, strategy wedded to creativity. The predator's frustration became palpable, its strikes erratic, no longer fluid or elegant. It attempted a final offensive, channeling all available power into a concentrated burst aimed at the human vessel. The crew responded with serene coordination, dispersing the energy through an intricate lattice of decoys and reflective fields. The blast fragmented against the holographic and physical layers, scattering harmlessly across the nebula. For the first time, the predator experienced true failure, its superiority challenged not by brute strength, but by human ingenuity and the unpredictable depth of moral courage. Seizing the moment, humanity executed the final maneuver. The vessel threaded through a tight formation of debris, using magnetic anomalies to redirect the predator's momentum. The hunter, confident in its power, followed blindly, drawn into a trap of its own velocity and reliance on predictable tactics. Every attack it launched was absorbed, every path blocked, every sensor misled. The humans had transformed the hunt into a crucible, demonstrating the ultimate principle of survival, creativity. Intelligence and conscience could overcome even the deadliest adversary. As the predator faltered, humanity observed without haste. The hunter had been a perfect instrument of fear, a being designed to pursue and dominate. Yet it had underestimated the core of human resilience, the ability to improvise, to adapt, to act with purpose beyond instinct. Every calculation it had made was rendered irrelevant by the deliberate, thoughtful, and unpredictable decisions of a species that refused to yield. The vessel glided past the faltering hunter, engines whispering, energy signatures dimmed to the minimum, a final statement of control and defiance. The predator drifted into the void. Confused, frustrated, powerless. Humanity had not destroyed it outright, but they had transformed the pursuit into a testament of superiority. They had proven that intelligence combined with moral depth, that creativity combined with courage, could turn the hunter into the hunted. Across the dark canvas of space, the lesson was clear: a species that refuses to be cornered can defy even the apex predator of the cosmos. humanity's vessel emerged from the nebula, steady and unbroken, engines glowing softly against a backdrop of stars. The crew exhaled, not in relief, but in quiet pride. They had survived the hunt, mastered the predator, and demonstrated the limitless potential of human ingenuity. In the void, where fear and strength had once ruled, humanity had carved a new order, one defined not by domination, but by cleverness, resilience, and courage.